certainly from everybody's perspective. But it was intriguing to note how people, there was the word they kept using here, pivoted. So they pivoted using either the strengths of what they did before the Gold Cup Days racing. So I've grown to appreciate just the quality of the racing at Ascot, as well as the...
After days of hearing crazy rumors, Princess Anne has finally broken her silence. She has confirmed something that no one was supposed to know. We had been hearing rumors King Charles had made a shocking decision to remove Camilla from her role as queen and place his sister, Princess Anne, in her position. We didn't know whether to believe this shocking news, but now Princess Anne has spoken up and set the record straight herself. So what exactly did she reveal? And why on earth would Charles boot Camilla from the throne? The making of a princess. First things first, let's understand how Princess Anne ended up as one of the most respected royals and the big reason why Charles thought she would make a great Queen of England. Princess Anne was born on August 15, 1950 at Clarence House. From the moment she took her first breath, royal life was her reality, complete with grand traditions and enormous expectations. Her mother, Princess Elizabeth, was not yet the queen when Anne was born, but trust me, everyone knew it would not be long. Sure enough, in 1952, Elizabeth became Queen Elizabeth II, and just like that, Anne's future was set. Her father was Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, and yes, even Anne's birth was celebrated in true royal style. There was a grand 21-gun salute in Hyde Park. Right from the get-go, the world knew she was not just any baby. Anne's upbringing was far from ordinary, but it was not the same as her brother Charles's either. See, Charles was being groomed to be king from day one. His future was all about leadership and power. But Anne? Well, she was cast in a supportive role, a life filled with duty, but always one step behind the spotlight. Unlike most kids who can run around and make their own choices, Anne's childhood was mapped out for her. She had a governess, Catherine Peebles, who was nice enough, but let's face it, she was not a substitute for her busy mother. The Queen had a full plate, leaving Anne and her brothers to be raised mostly by staff. As Anne grew older, she accepted her secondary position in the royal family. Charles was the star, the heir, the one expected to dazzle. Anne was trained to be a solid presence, a reliable backup in a world where Charles would always be the main act. She was not groomed to be queen, and she knew that from the beginning. Still, she found a sense of pride in being dependable and dedicated without all the glitz and glam that came with being the heir. And how did Anne react as the years went by and Charles's sons came along, pushing her even further down the line of succession? Was she bitter? Nope. Quite the opposite, actually. It seemed to give her freedom. Without the pressure of being closer to the throne, Anne had room to shape her own destiny and to be useful on her own terms. She didn't crave the spotlight or the responsibilities that came with it. If anything, she was relieved. What made her different from the rest of the royal pack, though, was her love of horses. Horses became Anne's escape, her passion, and her way of stepping away from royal duties. Growing up, she was practically glued to the stables, and it paid off. She was not just good, she was exceptional. At just 21 years old, Anne won the European Eventing Championship, which was a major deal in the equestrian world. She even snagged the title of BBC Sports Personality of the Year in 1971, something you don't see a royal win every day. Anne's love of horses became a serious career. She represented Great Britain in international competitions for years. And let's not forget her moment at the 1976 Montreal Olympics. Anne competed with the British eventing team, and even after getting a concussion during one event, she got back on her horse and finished the course. Yes, she had no memory of completing those final jumps due to the injury, but she didn't quit. That kind of tenacity made people sit up and take notice. Her commitment to equestrian sports didn't end when she hung up her riding boots. In 1986, she took on the role of president of the Fédération Équestre Internationale, where she helped shape the future of the sport. Anne used her influence to make sure equestrian sports stayed in the public eye, all while inspiring young athletes and championing the causes she cared about. But let's not forget her charitable work, which has always been a huge part of her life. Since 1971, she has been a patron of the Riding for the Disabled Association, which is an organization that provides riding opportunities for people with disabilities. It is a role she has taken to heart, and she has stayed involved despite having a royal schedule that could make your head spin. Princess Anne has always been the royal who does not make a fuss. She does the work and does not demand applause. Her reputation as one of the hardest working members of the royal family is not for nothing. Whether she is supporting charities, attending events, or working behind the scenes, she brings a level of dedication that's genuinely impressive. But what is it that she does for the monarchy? What are her royal responsibilities? Princess Anne's responsibilities. Princess Anne has been all about responsibility since she turned 18. And when we say all about, we mean she has been taking her role seriously for decades. Her first public engagement was right after she finished school in 1969, opening an educational center in Shropshire. Since then, it has been non-stop. She has become a non-stop, go-anywhere, do-anything royal, showing up wherever duty calls, whether that's in the UK or some far-off corner of the world. Anne does not just sit around Buckingham Palace sipping tea. Nope, she has been to more countries than most of us can name. Norway, Jamaica, Australia, Russia. The list is endless. Her first big overseas moment was a state visit to Austria, tagging along with her parents, and then she really took off, doing a full tour of Australia in 1970. These trips were not for taking cute vacation photos either. Anne was out there representing the UK and making sure relationships between nations stayed strong. One of the biggest highlights was in 1990 when Anne became the first British royal to visit the Soviet Union. She was invited by none other than President Mikhail Gorbachev. And this was not just a friendly drop-by, it was a serious diplomatic visit during a pretty tense time in history. Years later, in 2016, she went back to Russia to mark the 75th anniversary of Operation Dervish, proving that she does not forget important moments or people. But international visits are not all she is known for. Anne has a big heart when it comes to charity work, too. Let's talk about Save the Children, one of her biggest causes. Anne got involved back in 1970 and has stuck with it ever since, first as president and later as patron. But don't think she is just showing up for fancy dinners. Anne has traveled to Bangladesh, South Africa, Mozambique, you name it, to get a first-hand look at how the charity is making a difference. People have noticed too. In fact, in 1990, Kenneth Kaunda, the president of Zambia, nominated her for the Nobel Peace Prize. And she earned it, not because she is a royal, but because she is genuinely committed to helping children around the world. If you think one charity is enough to keep her busy, think again. Anne supports over 200 charities and organizations. Yes, you heard that right. Healthcare is one area she is passionate about. She is the Commandant-in-Chief of St. John Ambulance, making sure emergency medical care is top-notch. Plus, she is involved with the Royal College of Midwives, the Royal College of Emergency Medicine, and Magpus Air Ambulance. Basically, if it involves saving lives, Anne is in. Anne does not stop at healthcare, though. She cares about education, too. Since 1981, she has been the Chancellor of the University of London, taking over from her grandmother, the Queen Mother. Then, in 2011, she became Chancellor of the University of Edinburgh, a role she inherited from her father, Prince Philip. Here, Anne actively promotes higher education and goes to academic events. She is always supporting new learning opportunities and making sure education stays a top priority. Now, if you think she is resting on her laurels with just a few titles, think again. In 2007, Anne became the Grand Master of the Royal Victorian Order, stepping into a role her grandmother once held. And she has taken on roles her father used to have, like President of the Royal Society of Arts and Master of the Corporation of Trinity House. It is pretty clear she is ready to lead whenever needed and keep British traditions alive. And yet, even with all those responsibilities, Anne somehow manages to be the most hard-working royal around. In 2017, she outperformed everyone in the family, even Queen Elizabeth, by doing the highest number of engagements. When people say she is the hardest-working royal, they are not exaggerating. She shows up everywhere, all the time, no complaints, no fuss. Anne's dedication was on full display in 2022 when Queen Elizabeth II passed away. In a historic move, Anne became the first woman to participate in the Vigil of the Princes. She stood guard by her mother's coffin at St. Giles Cathedral in Edinburgh and later in Westminster Hall. It was a powerful moment and showed her deep sense of duty to both her family and the crown. Her charity work is as diverse as it gets. Anne's involved with Mercy Ships, which runs hospital ships that provide medical care to developing countries. And she is also a patron of women in science and engineering. Here she encourages women to break into fields where they are underrepresented, like science and construction. Anne's not just making empty promises. She is actively pushing for real change and opening doors for women wherever she can. Anne's reputation is something to admire. She does not put on airs, does not crave the spotlight, and has remained down to earth. Even now in her 70s, she is not slowing down. In 2023, she took on another role. She became president of the Commonwealth War Graves Commission, taking over from the Duke of Kent. The role is all about preserving the memory of those who died in conflicts, which aligns perfectly with her dedication to honoring military service. From her teenage years stepping into public life to her ongoing charity work, Anne has proven time and again that she is the real deal. No shortcuts, no whining, just pure commitment to her duty. And through it all, she has managed to earn the respect of both the royal family and the public. This is also the reason why she shares a deep bond with her brother. Charles and Anne's relationship. Princess Anne and King Charles have a bond that has lasted through all the drama and duty of royal life. Even with the weight of the crown looming over Charles and Anne's relentless charity work, their connection has always been strong. And it makes sense when you look at their early years. It is clear why. With only 21 months between them, they were practically glued together as kids. When your parents are the future Queen and Prince Philip, you get used to seeing them off doing official royal duties. So, Charles and Anne had each other. Growing up in Buckingham Palace, they were more than just siblings, they were each other's closest confidants. They would find ways to enjoy childhood while the world watched, but their paths were always going to be different. Charles was raised with the pressure of one day becoming king, while Anne carved out her own role. Yet, despite the differences, there is no denying their shared experiences shaped an unbreakable bond. One thing that has always brought them together is their love of horses. Thanks to their mother, Queen Elizabeth II, both Charles and Anne were horse lovers from a young age. They spent hours riding together, and horses became a shared passion that remained even as they grew up. They are still seen enjoying equestrian events, whether it is at polo matches or supporting horse charities. It is one of the few ways they escape the chaos of royal duties and find joy. And then there is gardening, which played a part in their bond as well. As kids, they worked on a small vegetable patch at Buckingham Palace. Charles took this hobby to new heights. He transformed the gardens at Highgrove House into a masterpiece and even designed a Chelsea flower show garden. Anne is less public about it, but she still loves being outdoors, and it is one of those simple pleasures that keeps them close. Their closeness really came into focus after Queen Elizabeth II passed away. Anne was by Charles's side, a steady presence as he adjusted to his new role as king. When Charles was officially crowned, Anne took on the historic position of gold stick in waiting. She rode on horseback behind him, which was a symbol of her loyalty and support. This was Anne showing the world that she had her brother's back no matter what. Charles and Anne's relationship is not all serious, though. They have been spotted laughing and joking at public events like the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. Even in the most formal settings, they find ways to have fun together. But then times got tough, and the strength of their bond was put to the test. In early 2024, Buckingham Palace announced Charles's cancer diagnosis. It was a shock, discovered during a routine procedure for prostate issues. Although the type of cancer has not been made public, it was serious enough that Charles had to cut back on his royal duties. He faced it with calm and grace, but the situation demanded someone step up, and that someone was Princess Anne. Anne, known for being one of the hardest-working royals, took on extra responsibilities without blinking. She traveled across the country, attended state events, and filled in at international gatherings. Yet there was tension behind the scenes. Queen Camilla and Anne reportedly had different opinions on how to handle Charles's absence. Camilla believed Charles should make a few public appearances to reassure the nation, even if he was not healthy. Anne, however, was firm. She believed that Charles needed to focus on recovery and that the monarchy could survive without him being front and center. This difference in opinion created some friction. Anne was frustrated and angry at Camilla. In her eyes, health came before appearances. If taking on extra work herself was the solution, she was ready for it. Meanwhile, Camilla worried about the optics of a king disappearing from public life. Anne disagreed and went full speed ahead, determined to carry the load for as long as needed. Despite the disagreements, Anne continued to show up and do the work. She was not looking for praise, she was doing what she thought was right. As Charles's health slowly improved, he began to ease back into his duties. And now he has decided to make one of the biggest decisions for the monarchy. Anne speaks out. We have been hearing rumors recently that King Charles might be considering replacing Queen Camilla with Princess Anne. Yes, you heard that right. The talk is that Anne's unwavering support during Charles's recent health crisis left such an impression that he is rethinking the monarchy's future. So why all the gossip? It started when insiders claimed Anne had hinted at some tension between her and Camilla. According to reports, Anne felt it was time for the truth to come out, implying that Camilla had not exactly stepped up when Charles needed support the most. This fueled speculation that Charles had been deeply affected by his sister's loyalty and strength. This made him reconsider the best person to stand by his side as the monarchy faces its next chapter. We have also heard a rumor that Charles was moved by Anne's dedication over the years and had an emotional moment where he acknowledged her sacrifices and incredible work ethic. Witnesses even say he had tears in his eyes as he spoke about how much he values her. On the other hand, rumor is that Camilla was caught off guard when she saw the king like this, and she was visibly shaken by the shift in attention. But let's be clear, these are still just rumors. There is no official word from the king about any major changes. Until Charles himself confirms anything, the speculation remains exactly that, speculation. However, with so much chatter and tension, all eyes are on the royal family to see what happens next. So what do you think? Will King Charles replace Queen Camilla with his sister? Tell us your opinions in the comments below. And before you go, make sure to hit that subscribe button for more royal updates and all the latest gossip. Thanks for watching.